Hey, everybody. Welcome to the world headquarters of Jaws Junior Entertainment. We are sitting here going to have a quick little conversation about rocks and whatever else happens to come up. I was going to try to publish a video for this week, and that did not happen. I have been kind of ill since Wednesday, and last night I was trying to do a live feed and just was not feeling up to it. So I went ahead and canceled that and thought I would do it this morning. And for those of you who cannot join me on the live feed, this will be here for replay in the future. So what are we looking at? We are looking at seam agate that has been tumbled one time in 60, 90 coarse grit. This has been collected through several trips. And I'm telling you, several trips of up in the Ochiko Mountains areas. And this is just stuff that we've picked up and collected through our many trips up there, and it's been accumulating. And I thought, I've got enough to do a good batch after the years of accumulating this stuff. So what are we doing? We're sorting through it to figure out what is going to move on with the medium grit and what is going to go on or continue to stay in coarse grit, or what could I work on doing cabochons with. And I've been working on some of this already. When I've been able to, but I come out here and don't feel good again, and I go back inside. But I'm doing much better today. So with that, we are here having just a quick little conversation. And I see we have a Muppet 929 online. So thank you for showing up. But yeah, so basically what I'm doing is just going through these, trying to figure out what I want to do with the next step with these. But checking out some of the interesting lines with it. And look at that bloom agate there. But because of this common opal on the outside, I think I want to grind that down some more. So that gets put into that bin. This one here can use some more grinding on it. So that gets put in there. And that's what I'm doing here. So, and most of this, I'll admit, is going to be put into coarse grit for the second round. Hey Muppet, no problem. I'm here trying to just talk about the stuff that I'm doing, talk about some other things that's going on, and just here to have some fun. But yeah. Now this one here, see, a lot of this stuff I don't know what I'm going to be able to do with after it's polished, because see, that's sitting there with some host material in there, some basalt. So a lot of this might end up just being used as filler material down the road. That one there, that's could move on to the next round. This one here looks interesting. Hey Laurel, or Lori. Yeah, Lori. Now this one's interesting because if you can see the crystals in it, the crystal structure, there we go. You can see it in that. So I'm going to move this one on, although it's dirty on the inside. That's okay. This is probably, this pile here is about 1/3. I mean, it's about 1/3 gone, 2/3 left. I've already filled up one barrel from just sitting out here for the past couple of days. Now, this one here has got an interesting sheen to it. There you go. Can you see that? Well, James, you're here to look, listen, and learn. Well, look, listen, learn? I don't know. That might be questionable. I have been told I do things all wrong. And by the way, that last one went into the medium grit. But see, I was doing a huge push on Obsidian, another medium grit one. That looks pretty good. And it's fairly translucent too. You can see. So that one might be interesting once it's polished up. Been on a pretty big Obsidian kick here of late, but I'm taking a break from it, so I decided to jump in agate. But this is what I've been doing with the Obsidian. And this particular Obsidian piece here, you're from Washington State, just to the north of us. This is leopard skin Obsidian that I collected out at Glass Butte. And then we got some other stuff I've been working on. Now, I have been working with some other artists, and they have actually picked up some of my material, and they are going to be doing some additional work to it. So there's going to be some of my material available. My polishing services will be available through some other people on with the wire wrapping. And then my sister is going to be getting back into silversmithing, and she's asked to use my material. So as those processes come along, be sure to check out here on more information on where that stuff will be available. And also on my Facebook page, which after the live stream is over with, I'll put a link in the description below. Now that one's definitely going back into coarse grit. And same with that one there. It's pretty rough. So that one's got, looks like it's green, but it's actually some basalt in there. I'm leaving it. I'm just going to grind it down some more. See, there's another piece of it, and just see how it looks. I'm pretty critical on how I do stuff, but in reality, there is no wrong way of doing it. A lot of people won't even attempt to tumble this stuff. They think it might ruin the batch. You know, it's rocks. You can't hurt a rock. So try it. Well, Muppet, I've got more Obsidian here too. So I love working Obsidian. I just got a little burned out on it. I've got to revise my procedures a little bit on getting the polish the way I want it. A lot of it's really good. Some of it is questionable. Let's see if I can find a questionable one. Yeah, here's one that's questionable. Get the fingerprints off of it. This one here's got a questionable, not quite a good enough polish for my standard. I was supposed to meet with a gentleman today and have him give me some pointers in his rock shop, but with me not feeling well, I chose not to go, and I canceled that, and I'll schedule another time. And we will try to do a video of that if I can make that happen. Otherwise, he just might be helping me out remotely, and you'll see what the results will be down the road. So yeah, this is what I'm doing. Now there's things like this here that I really don't know what to do with, because I don't want to destroy the crystal structure. It's dirty. So that's why it's kind of been put aside. Now this one's got kind of a bluish tint to it, but it's bluish, not because of the agate itself, it's because of that host material. It's actually the light is, shade is reflecting through or refracting through. Sorry about that. I didn't turn my phone off on. I should have turned off all communication with that. But now I don't know why that's in there, but it's in there, so why not? It'll continue on. So other than that, this is all that we're doing right now is we're just sorting through the stuff. We're going to have some real pretty agate pieces. Doing a full video on this polishing stuff. That's interesting. This particular agate is very tough to do because of all of the divots, the cracks, the voids. I don't expect this to be my best batch ever, but I expect to have some wins out of it. That's ready to move on to. I think I'll move that one on. That one's interesting. It's got a little bit of a pink hue to it. That one goes back in a coarse grit. So any of you that's out here now watching, have any questions? If you do, be sure to ask them, and I'll see if I can answer. That one's going to get moved on to medium grit. That one's going to be coarse grit. And see, like on this one here, do I want to try to grind off more of that white? Or do I want to just go ahead and polish it? See how it turns out. More coarse grit. And more coarse grit on that. Most of this here is going to get rolled twice in coarse grit. In addition, I'm adding some other material. The boxes of rocks that I bought from Tony Funk, there was some agate in there. It looked like some moss agate. But when I went to go slab it, it was so fractured, it literally fell apart. And in this piece here, you can actually see that fracture right there. If this was a full piece without the fracture, I might be able to squeeze a cab out of it, or a cabochon. But because of that, I'm just going to tumble it. And if it breaks in the tumbling process, it breaks. And then there's another one. So I'm throwing these in there with it too and get some pretty pieces out of it. I do have one here that I'll make a cabochon out of. Maybe, because there's that crack there. So I have to see how that crack goes through the rock. And that's what's frustrating about this hobby sometimes, is you find some incredible material like this. That looks beautiful. But it's fractured and you can't do much with it other than throw it into a tumbler. And that's a shame, because this one here might be one I can make a cabochon out of. But we find a lot of stuff that's already been cracked, and Mother Nature is just awfully hard on these rocks. Okay, back in the coarse grit, back to what we were doing. Now, who else gets distracted when they're trying to do a rock hounding project? They see something else that's interesting with the crystals, but it's got to get ground down. Some people probably wouldn't have even thrown this into the tumbler. You know, I've got some other bigger pieces that just blows this out of the water. So that's why the small stuff I'm really not too picky with. But I get very distracted. I could sit out here and start working on these, look down, and see something that I want to do, or think about another project I'm working on. And there's one of them. And what this is, it's obsidian small pieces and chips. And we're going to get these labeled up, and they're going to be for sale at a friend's booth at the Prineville Powwow in 2020. And I might have something set up prior to that for a pre-sale. For those who can't make it there, you might want to buy some of these. Let's see, then I turn around and I get distracted again by a piece of obsidian, and this one's going to my sister for silversmithing, because I think she's going to be able to do pretty good with that. That doesn't look too spectacular right now until you move it. So all I got to do is look around, and it's like squirrel. So it takes me longer than it probably takes most people. Yeah, I did those smaller pieces because a lot of my viewers here are people who can't get out and about to enjoy. Do I want to try that as a cabochon? A little whoop-de-doo in it. I will. A lot of the people who watch my channel can no longer get out and rock hound. A lot of them live in apartments. So for them to be able to sit down and have several pieces of material that's been highly polished in a small compact design, that works out pretty good for them. And I think I also have some full-time RVers that follow me. And this is a way that they can enjoy some of the material that I've polished, as well as not taking up much space or weight. So this is the non-glamorous side of rock hounding and lapidary, sitting here just sorting through rocks. And I started off with roughly 48 to 50 pounds of rocks. I ground it down. It's probably down to about 42 pounds. And when I get done with it, it'll probably be well below 40. And then it'll go through the polishing process, and that's where these steps speed up quickly, because it only takes me 3 days in pre-polish and 2 days in polish. So again, if any one of you have questions, be sure to throw them up there. Now this one is good even shape. It's thin. When I go to grind off the white coating on that, and I don't know if that's a calcium or if that's a common opal on this one, it might be a little too thin, but you know, it doesn't hurt to try. So that one will become a cab. This one's got some pretty deep holes in it there, so that will not make a good cabochon. And one of these days, once I start doing more of the cabochon process, I'll do a video on that and show you what I do. It's pretty generic. Almost every buddy out there does it the same way. There's really no major differences or changes. Some people's got better equipment. Some people have some lower end equipment like I have, but we can still produce some pretty shiny results. I have not collected zeolite crystals before. Hey, Northern Rocks, how you doing? Hope you enjoy that material that's you sent me pictures of there at your work. There is zeolite in my local area. The problem is, to get to it, you have to go through some private property. It's only accessible during hunting season. And I got a local buddy of mine that's going to get us access, or try to get us access for it. And if he does, I'll go look for it. If not, well, I'm not going to worry about it. Zeolite to me is something that I don't know, I really have got much interest in, because it's pretty as is. You just can't work it. Now look at that plume in there. That's interesting. The backside's pretty rough, and it's got cracks in it all the way through. I may try to pop this back piece off with a chisel and a hammer and then rerun it through coarse grit. So I'm going to set that one aside. And there's nothing wrong with modifying these things, these rocks, to make sure to get this garbage stuff off of it, because that's pretty cool. I want to keep that, but I want to get rid of that side. And you can see that crack there. And with a small ball peen hammer and a chisel, and a small chisel, I might be able to just pop that right off. I see somebody that's very important to me that just popped in. So this one here is questionable. Just because of this deep pockets in here, I'm going to go ahead and run it in coarse grit again. That one's going to go into medium grit. That one's going to go back into coarse grit. Of course, that one will, with all that host material. Now, why do I have a piece of rhyolite in here? That's not going to go back in there. So the stuff I'm working, like I said, is very difficult stuff to polish, just because you see the odd shapes, the holes, the divots, the cracks. It's going to be very difficult to get a good polish on a lot of this stuff. But hey, that's what I'm here for. I like the challenges. Definitely coarse grit, definitely going back into coarse grit. And some people will be concerned about cross-contamination of grit into one level to the next. I've never had a problem with that with my procedures. Why did I throw them back in the pile? I'll look at them again. I've never had cross-contamination issues. If I have it, though, it would be in this batch. Sorry about that noise. There's some crystals in that one. But again, it's just, I'm just going to have to run it through coarse grit again. And that's going into medium grit. Medium grit. So, gone through a big chunk of this. Probably have another hour or two to go on this. I'm not going to sit here and bore everybody with this, but I just want to come live. Be sure to check out the next video that's going to be coming out next weekend. That's going to be a Willamette River rock hounding adventure. I was hoping to get that one out this weekend, but with me feeling pretty ill the past few days, I just didn't get to the publishing process of it and getting that video edited up. So expect that one next week. I'll try to have it out Saturday morning, possibly Friday night, but it'll be Friday night or Saturday morning. It will have myself, my buddy, Mr. Van Dyke, my buddy James, and of course the Mrs. Jaws Jr. will be there, but she will not be on camera. As usual, of course. Everybody wants to see her, but she does not want to be seen, so her desires went out over everybody else. Oh, you don't think this is not boring? Well, I'm glad somebody doesn't think so. Whoops, that one hit the floor. See, this one's got a crack in it. It may not survive another round of coarse grit, but that's where it goes. Well, I'm glad you enjoy this. I know I've got a couple other people who would love to be here watching. One of them is the Catfish Hunter, but his internet feed is so poor that anytime somebody goes live, he just can't watch it, and that's kind of disappointing. So I'd love to see him on here. He's a person that's I've connected pretty well with over the past year or so. Traded some rocks with him, and overall good guy. And I kind of wish he could be here. So that's part of the reason why I do this, and then make sure it's available afterwards. Now this one here, I think would be a good cabochon, but because on that side right there, that area is a pretty deep divot. And if you ground it down all the way, it's not going to be very thick. So that gets into the tumbling process. So here with quite a few more cracks in it, so you can see it right there. When you have this many, you just can't get attached to every rock. You just have to let them go and let the equipment handle it. And if some of them break, they break. If some of them don't turn out, then they don't turn out. You just cannot get attached to the stuff and be upset when something doesn't work out. I'm a little bit different than that when it comes to my obsidian, because I work most of the pieces by hand prior to medium grit. And so I try to make them as flawless as possible, but this stuff is impossible to make it flawless. So we just do what we can with it. And again, it might end up as filler material for other agate tumbling projects. So most of those there. And those two that I took out go back into medium grit. There's another medium grit one. That's a nice one. I'll throw that one into, I don't know, coarse grit, medium grit. I like the colors of this one. And the reds on this here is probably from the iron staining, because you can see how the cracks in it are stained. And that one's going to polish up really neat. And that goes into medium grit. All those go into coarse grit. Another coarse grit. Another coarse grit. Now this one here, I probably shouldn't even carry on the process anymore and just leave it as is, because you can almost see through it. And as you can tell, I didn't do a very careful job when it was time to fill up these barrels. I just reached in buckets and grabbed handfuls and threw them in there. So this one here is not moving forward. And I don't know if you can see the sparkle in it. Another one, if I can get more of that cleaned up, it's going to turn out pretty good. That one I'm going to put back into medium grit. Coarse grit, that one there is going to be pretty much garbage, but I'll run through coarse grit again. Put that one into medium grit. And again, when you do stuff like this here, not every one of them is going to turn out fine. And that's okay. Like I said, what better filler material for agate than agate itself? And I can use this for filler material for my Jasper runs as well. And also I can use this filler material for quartz. So if it doesn't turn out, it's still going to stay here. It's not going to get thrown out. It's not going to be wasted. It's going to be put to use. Instead of something pretty, it's going to get turned into a tool. Well, there you go, everybody. Half hour of watching me sort rocks, talk about rocks, looking at the polished obsidian. I'm glad that you follow the channel, Lori. See that you've got a Chicago Electric dual rotary drum tumbler. I run 4 of them. If you go back and look at my channel, my videos too, if you haven't seen them already, I've got some videos on those. They're an adequate machine. I just know how to tune them right to make them last so they don't break down. So after that, I'm going to go ahead and end this live stream here. It will be available for you to rewatch it here momentarily on YouTube. And be sure to check back next week for us rock hounding in the Willamette River. And have fun. I really appreciate you guys here watching. So take care. Have a fantastic day.